Going on as usual, today is Thursday, April 24th, 2025, and Mark Carney dodges questions about the United Kingdom Supreme Court ruling on what is a woman. Amy Ham, I think that's her name, Amy Ham asks him directly, and he walks away from her, even though he was, talking and, speaking with other people in the area. He walks away from her, won't answer that question. A $20,000 tax on gas cars sold over quota. Yes, that's what the Liberals are promising. The Conservatives are promising to remove that. Is that already in place? I didn't know about that. If that was already in place, that's crazy that that was able to be put in place without me knowing about it. Anyway, the Conservatives are addressing that directly, and they're saying they won't do that, and they will repeal that, which is supposed to be coming into effect next year to move us over to having 100% electric cars by 2030 or 2035, whatever the deadline is. They keep changing it. Farage, Nigel Farage in the UK, says he wants to have a minister for deportations. It's interesting because the longer things go on and play out in the UK, the more Nigel Farage looks like controlled opposition or the next good guy that they're supplying, because he looks to be aligning himself with a lot of the globalist policies, right? So maybe he made a deal. I'm not sure, but it seems interesting. Mario, Mario. He's the guy who does the face to camera stuff, and he's a big conservative supporter, so he's everywhere right now. But he does good work. I've seen a lot of his stuff, and his digs are pretty good. But he's now been censored. I think it's TikTok. His TikTok got shut down for violating the terms of service, and he says that's very interesting. A couple of days out, 5 days out from the election. We're 4 days out now, right? Monday is the election. I don't know if I should do a stream. Should I do a stream? There are people who are inviting me onto their streams. I don't know what we should do. The Kitchen Table Talk people, let me know if you guys are interested in doing a stream on election eve. We'll see. But it's pretty crazy, the censorship and the things that are going on in Canada right now. Very concerning, really, because it seems like they're doing their best to be able to justify a Liberal win and say, oh yeah, well, that's just the way the cookie crumbles, deal with it, and pay those increased taxes too. So I don't know. It seems very suspect, if you ask me. United States welcomes back its service members who refused the COVID jabs. So the Army is saying, come on back. They're sending letters out. I've got 2 Hegseth videos, and look at that. He's not being removed as the Secretary of Defense. So that's, fake news, right? Everybody was saying he's going to be removed. No, it doesn't look like it. China says they're negotiating, or they're not negotiating on tariffs. Trump said yesterday that he was hopeful that they were going to get a deal on tariffs soon with China. And China has just come out and said, no way, we're not even negotiating with this guy. I don't know what he's talking about. So that's interesting. And Canadian news is saying that China wants to partner with Canada to hurt the U.S. Isn't that weird? Because they just slapped a whole bunch of tariffs on us. Maybe if they got rid of those canola tariffs, maybe then we could talk about partnering up to hurt the U.S. But I feel like also we should, unbeknownst to them, go tell the U.S. that they want to partner with us to hurt us, so then we could betray them. But now that I've said that, we can't make that play right now. Now it's open and in the wind, right? But it seems like a good opportunity to show our allegiance to the United States. Probably not going to happen, unfortunately, because it seems like also all of our institutions are captured, maybe by communist China, maybe by somebody else, but it seems very captured. Anyway, there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. We got to start with tariffs, and Trump's talking Canada again. He's saying, listen, I don't run Canada, but because I run the United States, we want to make our cars here. We don't need anything from Canada. Screw Canada. So, he doesn't quite say screw Canada, but here's Trump.
Again, we don't really want Canada to make cars for us, to put it bluntly. We want to make our own cars, and we're now equipped to do that. They took a lot of our car business. Mexico, too, took a lot of our car business. We want to make the cars here. I'm running this country. I'm not running Canada. And that's why I asked Trudeau, who I call Governor Trudeau affectionately, but I asked him, why are we spending $200 billion to support Canada, to subsidize Canada? And he was unable to answer the question. Why are we doing that? And I have to be honest, as a state, it works great. As a nation, considering the fact that most of the nation, 95% of Canada, what they do is they buy from us and they sell to us. If we didn't buy their oil, and we don't need their oil. We have more oil than anyone, but we don't need their oil. We don't need their lumber. We don't need their cars. We don't need anything. So I said, why are we doing this? Why are we spending $200 billion? It doesn't make sense. If we needed something, that would be a different subject. So I'm working well with Canada. We're doing very well. We're working on a deal. We'll see what happens. But again, why, representing this country, why are we spending $200 billion to support and subsidize another country? Because if they didn't have us, and if we didn't spend that money, as Trudeau told me, they would cease to exist. He said that to me. They would cease to exist, which is true, certainly as a country.
So there's Trump's position. When you look at it that way, I can't blame him. If I was a tax-paying American and he said, listen, we can't spend $200 billion to subsidize this foreign country, I would say, yeah, you're probably right, Mr. Trump. That makes perfect sense. Now, as a Canadian, I don't mind. But I think that we are going to be thrown out of the nest, right? This is the process of being thrown out of the nest. Tanvi says most read Bessett's speech as vague. So he had a speech and most thought it was vague. But it wasn't what he said, it was how little he needed to say. A few lines on Europe, debt, and global imbalances quietly confirmed the blueprint behind months of trade pivots, market shocks, and tight-lipped diplomacy. Let's trace it. I've been piecing together a puzzle for months across Trump's tariff announcements, gold revaluation murmurs, IMF gripes, and Treasury policy. It's been vaguely called the Mar-a-Lago Accords, which is hilarious. Not a document, not yet, but a framework that is absolutely in motion. Today, Bessett didn't announce the Mar-a-Lago Accords, but confirmed the strategy underpinning them. And make no mistake, this is not a policy by tweak. It's a long horizon reset of how America collects revenue, how it trades, what it defends, what it tolerates. This isn't Trump's erratic team making it up as they go. It's a blueprint shaped by Bessett, Miran, and others, built on global rebalancing. Surplus nations must consume more so that U.S. can borrow less. Asset-backed realignment, gold and security are now leverage. What's the problem they're solving? The U.S. borrows to defend allies who underpay, to absorb exports from surplus nations. So that's what Trump was just talking about. We don't need their cars. We don't need their energy. We are spending money where we don't need to. We could do it in a different way. We could do it in a better way, or a reciprocal way, where the U.S. is not just spending money to subsidize us, in Trump's view, right? While offshoring its own industry. Fiscal model is broken. Now they're charging for security and realigning trade. Pillar number 1, NATO must pay up. Trump wants NATO allies at 5% of GDP. Bessett echoes Europe must assume more security responsibility. Already in motion, Poland at 4.7%, Germany loosening rules, Spain and Portugal expanding budgets. Why does it matter? If allies pay more, the U.S. cuts defense costs, deficit shrinks, dollar softens, exports rise. That's the security for debt swap. It's a monetary reset through military diplomacy. Pillar 2, tariffs, revenue, and leverage. Tariffs are not chaos. They're 3-in-1 tools. 1, external revenue service. 2, dollar pressure valve. 3, most crucially, leverage for multi-pronged deals, trade, security, and markets, not just supply chains. Pillar 3, sovereign wealth fund, SWF. Trump signed the executive order in February. Assets include $900 billion in gold if revalued, $11 billion in seized Bitcoin, potentially federal land, real estate. It's not about backing the dollar. It's about monetizing the balance sheet. Pillar 4, IMF and World Bank reset. Bessett says IMF must return to core mission. Mission creep must stop. China isn't a developed country. This isn't aid reform. It's strategic realignment, using institutions to call out surplus hoarding and shift global power. She continues, here's the deeper logic. Surplus nations like China save too much and export the rest. America consumes, runs deficits, and absorbs the imbalance. The plan, get China to stimulate at home, use IMF to enforce global demand shifts, free the U.S. from being consumer of last resort. Pillar 5, dollar devaluation. The trade-weighted dollar has risen 200% in 40 years, crushing U.S. manufacturing. Now, shift defense costs, reduce foreign-held treasuries, use long-dated bonds, soften dollar, stronger industry and exports. So why the silence? Because every piece is still under negotiation. The less they say, the more is happening. And these aren't simple deals. They're linking tariffs to defense budgets, capital access, and sovereign assets. This is full-spectrum leverage. This isn't drift. This is consistency. The administration said it wanted more domestic production, fewer foreign liabilities, strategic use of assets, and every move, tariff, speech, rollback, tracks exactly with that plan. I mapped out after Liberation Day, April 2nd, the tariffs were part of a full spectrum reset. The direction of current negotiations suggests that's playing out. Yields rose, treasuries took a hit, but the arc holds. Talks must be working. We'll know more in 3 months, 90 days. So interesting. It's going to be a hot summer. It's going to be a very interesting summer, right? And the Pope is going to have a very interesting May too. So all of this tracks for me. It maps well. It seems very, very plausible. And the silence seems, again, very plausible. If you're actioning like, if you want to arrest somebody, you don't arrest them first and build the case after. You build the case and then you drop it, right? Same with this kind of stuff. They are making it so when they drop it, it drops like a thunderclap. It is done, right? And people are going to be shit shocked. We're not going to be shit shocked, but people are going to be shocked, right? I think Germany, and with the tariffs, they're a tool. And as I was saying before, it's like a guitar neck. The tool of tariffs is one string, and Trump's playing it, and he's watching the results. Germany, Election Wizards reporting, German finance minister says, we think an agreement on U.S. tariffs comes in 90 days. It's possible, right? 90 days. Ooh. Be interesting. Election Wizard again says Trump has received 18 written offers from countries on trade, won't allow rush deals. White House Kevin Hassett has said. So he's going to keep status quo until he's got deals in place to make sure that he's got leverage and all of these things are reciprocal and able to benefit the American people. And I don't think he wants to crash anything. I don't think he wants to crash anything. It looks like he's looking for a bridge from the old way, which is as described in the thread that I read, where the United States is the consumer of last resort and it pays to offset the imbalance, to a situation where it's mutually beneficial and people can stand on their own and they don't depend on the long trade routes and all the rest of it. And they can make stuff. They can make their own stuff, right? And they can export the excess. It's interesting. China Commerce, oh, did I miss one? 18 written offers. No, I didn't. Evan says, China Commerce Ministry just said, any content about current ongoing China-U.S. economic and trade negotiations is groundless and has no factual basis. So do you believe Trump or do you believe China? I still believe Trump, actually. So I think that China is negotiating, and I think possibly. And I think we will see a deal between them. And if not, I mean, Trump has said, if they don't come to the table to make a deal, then we'll set the deal. We'll set it. And that'll be what they have to deal with. And that'll be that. So if they don't come to negotiate, we'll just tell them what they have to deal with. And that's interesting. CTV News is reporting, China says it wants to partner with Canada to push back against American bullying. Jason Kenney says no, hard no. Jason Kenney wants to take over the Conservative Party if Mark Carney wins this election. So very interesting. The interesting bit about this is wanting to partner with Canada. I've got a whole bunch of people who are giving a bunch of reasons why not to do this, but canola, tariffs, the two Michaels, running our government into the ground. There's a whole bunch of reasons not to do this. It seems silly. The location of Canada, the location of China, and the location of the United States would make this a really dumb move. It would just be dumb. It would be silly. We shouldn't do that. Here's Andy Lee, and she's responding to Found in Translation. Miss Marianne Situ campaigned for Liberal candidate Mark Carney in Ottawa with Liberal unwitting Mary Ng and Carney's wife Diana Fox Carney. And Andy Lee says, did she now? They don't know that she's the daughter of high-ranking Chinese diplomats and the wife of a Confucius Institute director. Well now, right? A connected person, maybe a handler, who knows, hanging out with Mary Ng, right? And campaigning with Mark Carney's wife. Right? Super duper weird. All of that is very, very strange. It seems like Carney and China are very, very close. But further than that, it feels like they can operate pretty openly, right? Like this, nobody's hiding here, right? Like this is, the connections are open. Everybody's taking pictures. The picture thing seems like a requirement. Like, can I take a picture with you to prove that I've got the infiltration that I said I've got? Right? It seems pretty crazy. CTV News says China says it wants to partner with Canada to push back against American bullying. Tokyo Rosie says the only reason China can float this balloon in Canada is because many of our institutions, including the Liberal government, are compromised by them. This wouldn't fly in any other Western democracy, but it does here. Yeah. Super weird, right? Does it fly for you? It doesn't fly for me. I don't like it. I think that it's a bridge too far, right? Kevin Vung, former independent, I guess, is he running again? I'm not sure if he is running again. But he is responding to Dennis. Dennis says, China has always regarded Canada as our friend and partner. No, it hasn't. It has regarded us as a pawn and a useful idiot, no friendship is ever possible with the Chinese Conservative Party. And Kevin says, China thinks of itself as a friend and partner of Canada. That's a joke. They have bounties on Canadians. They interfere in our elections. They wittingly compromised parliamentarians. They tariffed canola oil and meat and peas by 100% and added a 25% duty on seafood and pork. They executed 4 Canadians. So, yeah, and among other things, like I'm sure there are other worse things that China has done that should preclude Canada from partnering with them against the United States. This feels like a high school drama, and we're being manipulated somehow, right? And we just, not that we don't see it, but we're falling for it anyway. Here is CTV News is reporting China says it wants to partner, and Sam Cooper's responding to this. And he says, in other news, National Director of the RCMP, National Division of the RCMP, and other police in Canada surveillance has Chinese diplomats meeting with senior Asian drug trafficking organization targets in United Front networks. So it is very corrupt. And the reasons that they can operate so openly is because they're pretty sure that nothing's going to happen to them. And they've been right so far. So have you heard of the Vancouver method? And every single time they tried to bring a case to bring down these gangs that were laundering drug money through casinos, they knew what they were doing. They had evidence. They had everything. The cases fell apart just before. And why? Well, I mean, different various reasons, but none of them passed the sniff test, if you know what I mean. So it's pretty wild stuff. Here is Andy Lee, and I have to go back on this one, but this is setting the stage. This person says, why are the Liberals so pro-China? I still haven't quite figured that out yet. I think it goes beyond money. It's ideological, uncanny. Andy Lee says, here's what most people don't get about Mark Carney. The Bank of England and the People's Bank of China were the key architects in creating the green financial system. Since then, China preached sustainable and polluted the planet while its GDP grew by almost $8 trillion, right? And then this is in response to that kind of thread. And Andy Lee says, this was Carney's plan for sustainable finance. China was always in it. Meanwhile, we self-immolate and destroy our domestic energy sector, chasing climate dreams. I can't say if Mark Carney is dumb and ideologically captured, or if he knew. I do know China's not dumb. And so is Mark Carney the dumbest smart guy we know, right? Like, oh, that would have been a good title for today's show. Anyway, it's one of those things where I can't shake the feeling that we're being sold a lie of Mark Carney. Mark Carney's not a really smart financier. He's just a guy who's playing a role, right? And it's just a different role than Justin Trudeau. And he was put in place to do certain things, and he does those things at the behest of handlers or people who tell him to do those things. And in exchange, he gets status and money and sometimes the power to run a country, right? And so I'm not convinced that he's the smartest guy in the room, though. I think that he's just got powerful friends. National Post says, Mel Joly calls for majority Liberal government days away from election. So this is, I think, the media trying to create this. I don't think it's real. It doesn't seem real to me. All of that said, I think this plays into the elections being rigged. And so if it's real close and the Liberals eke out another majority or something like that, which it doesn't, like, real close and eke out a majority, doesn't make a lot of sense. But look at what happened in BC, right? And people accepted that. And look at what happened in the 2020 election, and people accepted Biden. And so in Canada, if we get a Mel Joly majority government, well, I won't even be all that surprised, unfortunately. I hope I'm wrong. I really, really hope I'm wrong about that. But the National Post is saying, here's what could happen. In fact, they're even saying a whole bunch of places are reporting that Pierre Poilievre's in trouble in his riding, which is not plausible. He's won that riding handily for more than a decade. He's been in politics for a long, long time. And he is won leadership of the party under a wave of popular support. It would not map properly if he lost that riding. It would be very, very surprising. And so, I mean, how rigged are our elections? But I'll show you that in just a minute. We'll get there. Ryan Garrettson says, this gentleman is playing at the Carney rally. Could it be more somber and depressing? Okay, so messaging matters. And like at a political rally, you want like upbeat, happy pop stuff, right? Like you want to be doing that Apartment song, right? Like with Rosé and Bruno Mars. It's terrible, but like, man, I can't get it out of my head. Or you want to do Call Me Maybe, right? You want to be like upbeat, right? I just met you and this is crazy. But this guy is talking about car crashes and whiplash, and everybody's like, oh, Oh man, like it just keeps getting worse and worse. And I'm not even kidding you. This is Mark Carney's political rally last night. No word of a lie, 100% real, no joke. Here we go.
So are we enticed to the car crash? Do we enjoy the whiplash? Do we assume that this will pass?
No, oh, it's going to pass. Yeah, sure. It's just that's the kind of energy you want to avoid, I think, at your political rallies. Generally, you don't want to have that energy. Here's Mark Carney avoiding Amy Ham, and she says, "I asked twice about the UK Supreme Court ruling on what is a woman and if Canada should get the same ruling. He refused to answer." Video clip here. Here's.
Okay, so we'll leave you alone for a bit, but we'll come back.
Mr. Carney, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Have you heard the UK Supreme Court ruling that women are... Can you let me know if you think Canada should have the same? Mr. Carney?
Maybe he didn't understand what yes, you can ask the question means, because as soon as he said it, he just started walking away. Amy says, anyway, Carney was not interested in speaking to New West Times. I couldn't get the full question out, but he said he knew what ruling I was talking about before he dismissively walked away. He had been having polite conversation with others and even answering questions. So there you go. And no, you can't answer that question. Can't engage with that. Ashley says, Mark Carney spent the day in battleground Quebec, targeting ridings with tight races that the Liberals want to take from the Bloc Québécois. He's making his closing arguments at a rally in Laval right now, saying he's the leader to stand up to Donald Trump. Ashley continues, Carney just repeated a line he made at a rally last night. The core of our plan is to build, baby, build, a play on Trump's line, drill, baby, drill. It's so weird because they say Trump is like the biggest danger, but they use his slogans. Isn't that weird? I think that's super, super weird. Here's Cat Canada again, and this is a longer version of your plan is not sustainable. He talks about how his plan is sustainable, and there are things that happen on paper, blah blah blah. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but it's worth remembering that Carney is very dismissive of anybody who he deems less than him, and like that includes reporters, that includes other economists, that includes everybody, I think. So here's Mark Carney being an arrogant so-and-so. Oh, it has been 3 days since the last incident of fast talking. Nuts.
I'd like to follow up on that. Just if you've got an economist like Trevor Tombe saying that your plan is unsustainable, is just that. Is there an argument that if Pierre Poilievre is trying to bring down spending, bring down the deficit, that his plan is more fiscally responsible than yours?
Okay. There's one thing that you can write on a paper. There's another thing that will happen in the economy. Okay? So our plan, to be clear, is focused on investment and growing this economy. All of the spending, all of the investment in years 3 and 4 are for growing the economy. We are creating $500 billion of investment in this economy over the course of the next 4 years. That sounds like an enormous number. It is an enormous number. And the vast, vast majority of that investment comes from companies like Marmon, our big investments in clean and conventional energy, our investments in auto, our investments in housing and beyond from the private sector, but with a clear directional plan. The Conservative plan makes it up. It literally makes it up. It says that growth will come from somewhere, even though there's no plan to address the biggest risk to our economy.
I think one of the pieces of the Conservative plan is removing Bill C-69 and building pipelines, which he's not talking about, and saying that $1 billion in growth and revenue will come from just that alone. And so Mark Carney is not telling the truth, but he's also not really answering the question, right? It's unsustainable. He says, well, their plan isn't either. And then he makes it up and he lies, right? Here's gov.exe says, Mark Carney says the next election choice is clear. Voters can choose socialism and vote Liberal, or cut government spending and vote CPC. That's the problem with Canada. There are far too many socialists who will vote for free stuff and expect others to pay for it. This is long, and basically it's just more Mark Carney positioning his argument. And I don't agree with how he positions his argument. Brian Lilly says, A clear theme throughout this campaign has been that Mark Carney lies. He lies quickly. He lies casually. He lies all the time. He did it this week in attacking his main opponent on something he knew wasn't true. This isn't a good look for a politician. Right. So if I run this clip of Mark Carney and he's talking about how he's positioning things, I don't have any clue whether he's telling the truth or lying, because he lies so as just a matter of opening his... It's like listening to Marco Mendicino, right? Marco Mendicino is physically affected when he tells the truth. He gets hives and he can't speak anymore because his throat closes up. So you know he's lying because he's talking, right? And so here is Mark Carney, same thing, I think, right? And so it's unfortunate that he's burned his credibility so quickly, but he really, really has. And it's not just me saying that, like Brian Lilly, and there are other people who are talking about how much of a liar Mark Carney is. And so do you want a liar like that as your prime minister? It's wild. Globe politics, and no, the answer for me is that's a no for me, dog. Globe Politics says landlords across... This is a liberal initiative. Some people will like this. I don't like this. I think it's a bad idea. Landlords across Canada should be forced to let tenants keep pets, says Erskine Smith. And here is Joseph, and he says, no, it's not your property. It's not your right. Ownership laws are sacrosanct. Or the whole system crumbles. And the whole system is really crumbling anyway. Like we have situations where tenants can stay in the houses for months on end without paying rent and basically say, yeah, I'm not going to pay rent because screw you, landlord. And the courts will side with the tenant. You can't do anything to get them out. That's crazy. Like that is absolutely not something that we should allow. And this seems like a minor thing, but it's another brick in the wall of that structure of, if you have a business and the business is, I own houses where people rent, if you're creating homes and things like that through your business that way, you are exposed to a huge amount of risk, like just a massive amount of risk, so much risk that it's not worth it. I have a friend who used to be a landlord, and like we're talking in the early 2000s, 2005, 6 type era, and easy to be a landlord. I was a landlord during that time too. Easy to be a landlord in Guelph because university housing, right? So, but he got out of being a landlord in not long after I did, because it started to get, the writing was on the wall where people who were in the homes, in the rental units, had more rights than the owner did. And he was like, my last group of students is gone because I'm not dealing with that anymore. And so like, yeah, man, it's one of those things where this is just one more thing. It's not going to help. It sounds really good, but it actually drives the wedge between the renters and the owners more. And the government is hammering that wedge in using stuff like this. So be wary. There are places, I'm sure, that you can find that you can rent with pets, right? It's not a hard and fast rule across the board. So it's just a matter of finding somebody who's in sync with you type deal. But it's one of those things where, man, I think it's a minor thing, but it'll drive a big wedge. Lots of people will get inflamed on both sides. Kevin says, he's responding to Andy Lee. She says, Mark Carney's silence on the PRC's unprecedented attack against Joe Tay is absolutely deafening. And Kevin says, not just Carney's silence, every single legacy media Liberal Party paid for person too. So yeah, all of the media, all of the parliamentarians, everybody who's not saying anything about all of this that's happening right in front of us, pretty crazy stuff, right? And interfering directly in our elections, etc. And nobody seems really all that upset about it, right? Like nobody seems upset at all. Polymart, this is from March 25th or March 26th, 2025. So this was not that long ago. Polymart is putting something like 80% chance for Carney to be the prime minister. And apparently they're shysters and proven shysters. So here's Vesper. He says, wow, the last month from Polymart, a $7 million market manipulation. Apparently, market manipulation is common on Polymarket and is more widespread than most people know. Most of the bets are from major overseas crypto investors who manipulate the bets for political advantage. Check this out. So a $7 million market manipulation scandal for Polymart. So their platform is under fire following the most severe manipulation attack in its history. What went wrong, and it outlines it kind of here, is Polymarket rigged, a history of insider allegations. This isn't the first time Polymarket has been accused of manipulation. Polymarket is revealing itself to be a totally fraudulent platform in insider rights. Insiders write rules, place bets, and coordinate with verifiers to rig markets and scam their own customers for millions daily. He alleges that the dispute button disappeared during the 2-hour window for users to challenge the resolution. Okay, sorry. Herman disclosed that in early March, manipulators resolved that gold missing from Fort Knox market as a no. So they stole $3.5 million from their users who were betting on that, who lost the bet, right? And furthermore, in a tariff-related market, he alleged that the dispute button disappeared during the 2-hour windows for users to challenge the resolution. This allowed insiders to push the market to a no outcome. Another example he gave was the Will Trump Say China during his crypto summit. Polymarket issued a rule clarification after Trump mentioned China, retroactively declaring it didn't count and resolving the market to no. Hermanson elaborated that the manipulation of polymarket markets happens due to combination of factors related to UMA's dispute resolution system and influence of insiders. He added UMA resolution votes are highly concentrated with just 2 whales controlling over half of the voting power. Furthermore, an individual holds up to 7.5 million of the 20 million staked UMA tokens. So I don't know what polymarket isn't something that I'm on often. I guess it's a betting platform, but they don't seem to be an above board betting platform. So they're putting Carney as a good chance of being prime minister. And that seems, well, like somebody's influencing that. So that's interesting, right? Let's talk about CPC before we say goodbye to the stream. I'll try and get to the end of the election stuff. CBC Watcher is responding to Globe Politics. Globe Politics says Poilievre may lose his Ottawa area riding as Liberals poised to sweep the region. CBC Watcher says, just to be clear, Ford's chief of staff and Doug Ford and their sources are interfering in the federal election now. So he's saying this is not believable, and how are we getting these stories placed in the Globe and Mail? Here is the House of Commons staffer. He says, a quote from this Toronto Star article, one Conservative source involved in Poilievre's campaign told the Star that the leader appears to be in trouble in Carleton. Is the CPC volunteer named Katie Telford? So, yep. Absolutely, 100%. Here is Lucas, and he's responding to Robert Fife. Robert Fife says Poilievre may lose his Ottawa area riding as the Liberals are poised to sweep the region. And Chris says bullshit. This is 338 Canada, I think, prediction as of April 23rd. And Carleton was 91% Conservative in, 91% going to Conservative. So 50% to Liberals, 41%. So 8-point lead, 9-point lead. It seems pretty likely. CPC in 2021 with 51.9%. It doesn't seem like it's a close, tight race at all. So it's, where are they getting this? I think this is 338 Canada. This is one of the projection websites. There's no URL, so apologies about that. But I believe this is correct. I don't believe this is photoshopped or made up or anything like that. I believe this is accurate data. So they're lying. Why would they lie like that? Because they just lie. Here's Pierre Poilievre pandering. This is why he's losing the seat. This is why. He says, on Yom HaShoshah, or whatever that is. I don't know what it is. Sorry, everybody. I'm not meaning to say it incorrectly as a matter of disrespect. I'm just terrible at reading names. Anyway, he says, we remember the 6 million Jews senselessly murdered in the Holocaust and honor the brave heroes who confronted evil in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. In the face of a new wave of anti-Semitism, conservatives joined Israel and the Jewish people in renewing our pledge, never again. Canada's being invaded. And I don't see, he's saying, in the face of Canada's invasion, we are going to continue to bring people into Canada to invade, and we will build their houses for them, right? And also, we stand with Israel. I wish that we could have politicians that stand with Canada. I really do. I wish we didn't have to have this ethno-pandering, right? Regardless of the ethnicity being pandered to, whether it's Sikh or Jewish or whatever it is, the whole thing is, but... as much as I was joking about him losing his seat for this stuff, I don't think that the broad Canadian public is as upset with the ethnic pandering as I am. So I don't think this hurts him as much as I was joking it does. So I think he's going to probably win the seat. I don't know if he's going to be the prime minister, but he's probably going to win the seat. Anne is talking about Pierre Poilievre, and Poilievre says conservatives will scrap the forthcoming $20,000 Liberal tax on gas-powered cars. Our plan for change will bring vehicle prices down for families, maintain support for the auto sector, launch a Keep Canadians Working Fund, take the sales tax off Canadian-made cars and trucks. Vote for change, vote Conservative. And Anne says Liberals will cap gas car sales starting next year, adding a $20,000 tax to every car sold over quota. Scary. Do you think that'll last? I didn't even know about this. So I feel bad that I didn't even know about this. So starting next year, really? 2026 seems far away, except that it's 2025 now. So I remember 1995. I was in high school in 1995, and 1995 felt like the future. Like 1995 is a very futuristic sound. It's like fast or something. I don't know. There's nines and there's fives. It felt like a very cool year. 1997 feels like a dorky year. Right, the 7 makes it kind of dorky. I don't know. 2000 was a cool year. Okay. Maxime Bernier says the same. They're the same. Yes, they are the same. This is their PPC section. Independent summary of Liberal and Conservative Party policy platforms. So the Global Compact for migration is agreed upon by both parties. The replacement migration is pretty well agreed upon. The Paris Climate Agreement is pretty well agreed upon. Net zero. I haven't heard Poilievre say that he wanted to get to net zero. He wants to unleash energy. So that one's maybe a miss. I haven't heard him say that. Sustainable development goals. What are they? It's a shame. If only he knew what sustainable development goals or the 2030 agenda was, maybe he'd have a position on it. For now, it seems like he supports it. And Sogi, he's signed. Poilievre, just like the Liberals, have all signed the Bill C4, I think it is, the gender ideology bill. And he's not proposing to change that. So, man, I can't support that. I can't. They're in on the United Nations. They're in on Ukraine. They're in on the World Health Organization. They're in on funding Israel and supporting Israel at the expense of anything else, right? Like at the expense of Canada, it seems. So, man, I wish we had politicians who supported Canada. Jagmeet Singh says dental care, pharmacare, safe workplaces. Safer workplaces. Safer workplaces? Are workplaces unsafe right now? Anti-scab legislation. Every real win for working people came from electing New Democrats. Nope. On April 28th, let's fight to protect these wins together. He's going to lose his seat. He is going to lose his seat. Him and Elizabeth May. That'd be nice. There's going to be some schadenfreude on the 29th if they lose their seat. That'll be very interesting because I might not be able to stop smiling. But we'll see who the prime minister is. And even then. Here's a funny meme. It's Jagmeet Singh riding a donkey where the Liberals and the Conservatives are riding racehorses and they're off in the distance way ahead. And it says the home stretch and it's got Jagmeet Singh's hat says balance of power because it doesn't look like a turban. It just looks like a sheath of some kind. Anyway, it says balance of power and he says irrelevant my ass. And he's riding an ass. So it's funny because he is irrelevant. He absolutely is irrelevant. Holly Doan says, let's move into our grab bag of election news and then we'll kill the stream. She says the dystopian predicaments described in gradations of likelihood 15 years down the road resemble quite closely the conditions that prevail in Canada already. I don't know anybody who's hunting in the woods or fishing in the streams yet, but I do know people who can't own homes, who wish they could own homes, but they look at the prices. I had friends who were talking about some well-priced semi-detached houses, and it was over $500,000. And I was like, that's still $500,000. Like, that's still an F ton of money. Like, it's a lot of money. Getting a mortgage for $500,000 for a semi-detached house. And not to say, like, I'm not trying to look down on anybody for that. That's not my point. It's that it seems out of reach. Like, your down payment is so high. Like, you're saving for such a long time to get more debt. And it seems like we're doing it wrong. And it seems very clear to me that we're doing it wrong. It shouldn't be like that. Buying a house, buying the basics should be very, very... It should be easy to get into. My parents bought a house. Now the interest rates were 18% or something like that. But my parents bought a house in Guelph for $59,000 in 1984 or something like that. And it was a brand new build. There was no garage. There was a basement unfinished. They were going to finish it themselves. Don't do that. And so, I mean, we learned a lot finishing that basement. But it's one of those things where you should be able to stake a claim like that. You should be able to afford a house and just get by and not wait 25 to 30 years while you're saving to be able to get a house and then just get by, right? Like that's going to take too long and you're not going to be able to have babies. And that's a huge problem too. And so, yeah, we're already in that situation and nobody really wants to admit it. And that's problematic. Here's Mario. He says, a week before the election, my TikTok account got permanently banned. I average nearly 50 million views a month. This is not a coincidence. 50 million views a month? And I can't get more than a couple hundred views on mine. I think the censorship is worse than I think. Anyway, I don't know that the conservatives are going to change this. Like they say that they're going to change this, but before C11, before I was censored, before they passed the Facebook censorship laws, I was censored massively, right? So I don't think they're going to change it. If they do change it, can I sue YouTube for the missing money that for the years that I've done this that they haven't paid me? I should be able to. Juno News says Elizabeth May calls for new taxes on Canadians to fund more foreign assistance in order to step up for countries targeted by President Trump. Oh, that mean President Trump. Let's save him, Canada. You don't mind paying more taxes to replace the U.S. foreign spending budget? Yes, I do. What insane drivel is this, Elizabeth May? I hope she loses her seat. Here's the Conservatives look like they're going to win it. Look like. We'll see, right? The Green Party won with 35% last time, and the Conservatives are at 35% this time. Green's at 34%. So we'll see how that all plays out. And we got to say goodbye to the stream. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to canadapoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful